All right, well, a common saying at YCharts is if you're on time, you're late. So let's get started. My name is Gene Romero, and I'm one of the sales directors here at YCharts. Today, we'll be going over how advisors use YCharts to build and present portfolios that win new clients, something that is important to every advisor out there, I'm sure. Here at YCharts, I've been with the company for about 6 years. I oversee our account executive team. My team primarily works with registered reps and independent RIAs. We really pride ourselves on helping advisors elevate and optimize their investment research and client communication strategies. With years of experience across the group, we really try to take a consultative sales approach to ensure that you as the end user get maximum value out of the software. We have an action-packed agenda for you all today. We'll be showing how YCharts enables you to present portfolios and investments to clients or prospects via customizable FINRA-reviewed reports. We'll be digging into those portfolios a little bit and helping you fine-tune your investment strategy using automated high-horsepower research tools. And lastly, once you've won that new business, we'll be showing you how to share insights and answer client questions with engaging visuals and data. So stay tuned till the end. Throughout the course of today's webinar, please feel free to chat in with questions. I'm going to reserve some time at the end to make sure that we can get through hopefully the bulk of those. But if you do have questions and we don't get to them, please feel free to chat in or we will contact you after the webinar. A recording of this webinar will be published to our website, as are all of our webinars, under our support topics section. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. Getting into my YCharts account, the first place that I'm going to go is into our support topics page. Under the resources section and the FAQ topics, you'll see right here a nice little intro about these new FINRA-reviewed reports that YCharts has. So it was a really common question from reps that my team and I work with. Are these reports good to use with clients? Are they FINRA-reviewed? So now the answer is yes, with the caveat that we do have 2 reports that are available to you. A couple things to note. These are not going to be in your accounts by default. You do need to request access to these reports before they're put into your YCharts account. Really simple process to do that. Just go ahead and click on this word form, which is hyperlinked. Put in your YCharts account email address, and our awesome support team will go ahead and push these into your account. Please allow maybe a day or two for those to populate. It's also very important that I note that while these reports have been FINRA reviewed and received a clean letter back, we strongly encourage you to share these with your own compliance team or department, so that way we can customize the disclosure with your firm's FINRA member name. Now, down below, you'll see a few different hyperlinks. This submitted letter that we received back from FINRA, these are what you would go ahead and submit to your internal compliance person along with the report itself. I'm going to go ahead and open up our comprehensive overview report. In this report, we're going to start off on the cover page. I'm not going to go through every single one of these pages here with you today, as I'm sure a lot of you will be requesting these and using these in the future. But it should have everything that you would want to review with a client or prospect. So on the first page, you're going to see a lot of performance information as well as some key statistics on the portfolio itself. As I scroll down, you'll get information on the portfolio's fundamentals, asset allocations, things like your sector breakdowns, both equity and fixed income, and then 3, 5, and 10-year risk information. You'll also see down here on the subsequent pages that we have underlying holding information, which is really nice, and then you'll get into all of the legal mumbo jumbo that I'm sure you appreciate and your clients really like to dig into when you give them these reports. The other report is probably my favorite when I talk to clients because it's really what enables them to win new business, and it's going to be this comprehensive comparison report. This portfolio report is great because it allows you to really show your value as an advisor, whether you're trying to show that your portfolio would outperform an incumbent portfolio or perhaps that your fees are lower. This does a great job of illustrating that. So here you'll see a few different lines rather than the 2 that we saw in the previous report, where now you have the prospect's current portfolio, your proposed strategy, as well as a benchmark. Now, things like I just described, this expense ratio where you're saying, hey, your current portfolio has a 1.25 fee associated with it, and ours is going to be at 37 basis points. That might be a really simple concept for you to go over with the client and help you win that new business. So both of these reports are great, but they're really the end result of a lot of hard work on your end, right? So let's show you how we got there. I'm going to come back into a YCharts account and go to the Tools section and go to Model Portfolios. Anytime you're creating a new model or importing a prospective client's account, what you'll do is come to the Create dropdown in this upper right-hand corner and go into a blank model portfolio. Simply give this a name, and then start adding your tickers and your weights. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a few here to show you how easy this is. All right. Now, the important thing to note here is as you're adding target weights, you need to make sure that that adds up to 100%. A couple other things that I'd like to highlight are the ability to use various indices or even custom or blended benchmarks for comparing against a portfolio. So let's just say that you wanted to be able to look at like a 60-40 benchmark. I have several in my account. You just create these as a separate model, and then it'll be able to benchmark to that. Select a rebalance frequency. Get a lot of questions about the start of series history. I prefer the newest security. This will take the performance of the portfolio back to the most commonly incepted mutual fund, ETF, or stock in this portfolio. So if you are creating a portfolio and you're not seeing a whole lot of return information, you probably have an ETF or maybe a mutual fund share class or a recently IPO'd stock that doesn't have that, and it'll only go back to the newest security in that portfolio lineup. Now, if you do have a lot of different holdings, or maybe you got a prospect statement that came with dollar values rather than target weights, I recommend uploading that. So we have a really nice, simple upload feature. All you do is come in here and download this template. It'll open up an Excel sheet that looks like this. So I have the exact same portfolio that we just created with the tickers and the dollar values right here. Save that locally to your desktop, drag it and drop it in here, and we'll end up with this same information that we just did as we typed it in. Hit update, hit save, and then that's going to appear in your model portfolio section. Let's go ahead and open up that portfolio that we just created and take a look at it. So this is our prospect's current portfolio. I open this up, and that's going to take us into our portfolio overview page. Right now we're on the quote tab. I'll get to a couple of these others here in a second. So you'll see the cumulative performance chart right here at the top. Key stats down below. These are fully customizable, so if there are particular portfolio metrics that you like to evaluate, whether it be for a prospect's portfolio or one of your own models, please go ahead and feel free to customize those right here. As I scroll down, we'll see high-level asset allocation, the underlying holding information, and risk data, as well as some of that performance information. Now, as you guys look at this, I'm sure the same things are popping out to you that are to me. We have a portfolio full of American funds that have an expense ratio of 1.38%. It's about a 70-30 allocation. I have it benchmarked to a 60-40 benchmark, and we can see that it's underperformed that benchmark by about 16%, right? So it's a more aggressive allocation that's getting worse returns than the benchmark. So I'm feeling pretty good that we'll be able to really tell a compelling story to this prospective client. Now, if you do want to dig in a little bit further into the portfolio performance or allocations, simply click on these tabs up at the top where you'll see performance broken down, not just across the cumulative returns, but also periodic, so 1 month out to your 10, 15-year returns, as well as your annual returns on that portfolio here, and an upside-downside capture ratio. If you want to get a better sense of the allocations beyond just the stock and fixed income, go ahead and take a look at the allocations tab where you'll see regional exposures, market cap breakdowns, credit quality, style box exposures, and sector exposures, and so forth. Now, all of this information does come into those reports that I showed you previously. Now, if we want to go ahead and run a report on this portfolio, simply come up to the report section in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. I'm going to start off with an overview report. Once again, once you request that report be added to your YCharts account, it will appear right here. It will be noted FINRA-reviewed. Go ahead and start that. Prepared for, I'm going to just say test client, generate it, and now it's going to spit out a nice PDF report. Now, right off the bat, you're going to notice something a little bit different about this report than the one that I showed you previously, and that's going to be that we've added a logo into the cover page. So this is really nice from that custom co-branding that we're happy to do for you. You'll also see as I click into the second page, no longer are we looking at that purple and orange color scheme. I have a color scheme that matches my website or anything like that. Once again, we're happy to do that for you and add custom colors into any of the reports that maybe you're running. So we got the logo, we got the cover page, as well as the returns, key stats. I already showed this to all of you, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the color scheme is really nice, and I think it really pops. So if you have something like that, please feel free to shoot it over to us. We have a custom form that you can fill out, and then everything in your YCharts account will be co-branded for you. So we have a portfolio now that has really underperformed what I would consider a conservative benchmark for the allocation that this client has. It looks pretty expensive. Let's go ahead and see really what's driving that. So probably my favorite tool in all of YCharts is this Quick Flows tab on the far right-hand side of the screen. If you haven't discovered it already, I certainly encourage you to play around with it. It's great because it gives you shortcuts throughout the YChart system, really reducing your time, improving your efficiency, and back to the high horsepower. This is going to deliver a lot of high horsepower for you all. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that drawer. It's going to give me a series of different hyperlinks that will allow us to evaluate this portfolio in a multitude of ways. Now, the first one that I'm going to click on is actually going to be looking at the underlying holdings of this portfolio. I really want to get a sense for what the other advisor that I'm competing against has this client invested in. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this basic info breakdown. That's going to take us into our comp tables tool. It's going to populate not just the portfolio itself, but all of the underlying holdings within that portfolio and show us a series of different metrics. So from expense ratio to dividend yield to some risk metrics, looking at the drawdown to some of the fees, right? You can see that this other advisor is probably a commission-based advisor. Maybe I'm fee only, and that's something that I want to discuss with the clients, the benefits of working with a fee-only advisor versus a commission-based advisor like this may be, right? So it allows you to go ahead and look at a series of different metric columns. Now, we have a lot of these quick flows with these different holdings analysis, but what if you wanted to have your own custom metric sets? To do that, you can go ahead and search for any metric that you want here. So if we're looking at dividend yield, but we also wanted to have a distribution yield, type search that, the system will find it, and now it will go ahead and add it into this lineup of metrics. Did I not click on that? There it is. Now that's populated. My apologies. So you can add columns in here, save it as a different metric set. As you'll see here, I have a bunch of different metric sets that I've created over the years, and in your accounts, if you're not a client yet, we do give you a lot by default. So one that I'm going to open up is this full fund analysis. This would have every metric that I would want to evaluate the underlying funds on. So we can go ahead and look at everything from your turnover ratio to your return information, the rank within the category, risk metrics, so on and so forth. So a lot of these metric sets will already be in your accounts, or of course you can create your own like I've done with this next one, which is really just a rank and return. You can click at the top of any of these columns to sort them. So in this case, what I've done is I've looked at the 5-year category rank of these funds. And you can see here that none of them are all that impressive, but particularly this Washington Mutual Fund is consistently, certainly in the bottom half of its category, but even in the bottom 85th percentile over the past 1, 3, and 5-year periods. So if you do see something like that and you really want to discuss that with your prospective client, go ahead and click on that fund overview page. That will take you into the quote page itself, where kind of like the model portfolio, you'll have a lot of information, but now just at the fund level rather than the portfolio level. A couple things that pop out to me: high expense ratio. These fund flow data points are really compelling because you can see that investors have really been moving assets out of this particular fund. It's ranked consistently low within its category. Why are you still in this? Why hasn't your advisor picked up on that and made a change? That's something that I would be doing for you, and I'd be on the pulse of this, not just collecting commissions. So that's great. So let's take stock of what we've done so far, right? We went ahead and uploaded a portfolio, we analyzed it, we ran a report on it, we dissected some of the underlying holdings, and now it's time to start considering, well, what would we put this client in? Perhaps you've had them fill out a risk questionnaire, or maybe just through your conversations, you have a pretty good sense for their risk tolerance and what they're looking for in terms of their investment objectives. And you have a portfolio that you want to be able to show them. So I'm going to go ahead and use this search bar up at the top here, and I'm going to look for my proposed strategy. That search bar is great. Anytime you're looking for a portfolio, a mutual fund, an ETF, an economic indicator, anything in the system is searchable through that top bar there. So I have my proposed strategy pulled up here. I have that exact same 60-40 benchmark that I used before. We can see that this portfolio is really keeping pace with that portfolio. But unlike the other portfolio, it's only 46% stock and about 52% fixed income, maybe a little bit higher, right? So in that sense, it's probably outperforming a 60-40 benchmark, whereas the other portfolio was underperforming that benchmark with a 70-30 allocation. We'll also see that the expense ratio is far lower on this portfolio. So of course, you can go ahead and go through those same tabs. This is great if you're just evaluating one of your current strategies, you're monitoring it, or you want to be able to use it. But what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to compare this portfolio in a few different ways before we go ahead and run that report to be able to make sure that it is in line with what we want to do with this client. So I'm going to go back to quick flows for a moment, and I'm going to go to comparison. I'm going to close these out. Obviously, I was practicing before today's webinar, but you just search for any portfolio that you're looking for. So I would say proposed strategy and prospects, just like the top search bar. This is very easy to use, prospects current portfolio. And now we'll see a bunch of different quick flow hyperlinks have appeared. I'm going to go back in to look at the basic information in a second, but let's talk a little bit about some of these visuals, right? So I'm going to go to this performance chart right here. That's going to take the two portfolios into our fundamental charting tool. It's going to start off by looking at a one-year look back. So this is kind of interesting, right? Because this prospect's current portfolio has outperformed our proposed strategy by about 2% over the past year. Now, I'm not really a short-term investor. Maybe I want to look out over the past 3 or 5 years. Now that tells a very different story, right? Over the past 5 years, our proposed strategy would have outperformed their current portfolio by about 15%. Now, another very compelling visual that I like to show, hopefully all of you have used this in the past, is this percent off high feature underneath this, what I call the command center on the left-hand side. By checking that bubble right there, it's going to show us the drawdowns of the two portfolios head-to-head over time, right? So maybe we're not chasing returns, we're really trying to mitigate risk. This is a great way to be able to show that over time. Now I'm going to come up to this annotate feature here because this is going to be great. I'm going to do a min line for that portfolio as well as for their current portfolio. And now what we're showing is when we saw that little bit of a market sell-off in the middle of coronavirus, March or April of last year, we have a portfolio that we would have seen about a 17% drawdown in. Their portfolio lost 24% of its value during that same period, right? So over a 5-year period, we've outperformed them by 15%, and during a period of market volatility, we held up fairly well versus their current portfolio, right? So that's exactly what we're trying to discuss with them. So that's great. That's one of the visuals under the comparison quick flows. Of course, if you wanted to come into this basic information, you can do something like that. If you wanted to look at just your proposed strategy, we can do that too. So I have basic information of the two portfolios head to head. This is great for your analysis. Now, if we wanted to run that FINRA report, all we're going to do is go into our proposed strategy quote page, simply go to reports as we did before, and this time we're going to be running a comparison report. So I'm going to go to comparison reports, comprehensive comparison report. I'm going to search for our prospects current portfolio, hit next. You know what? I'm going to do an amazed prospect because they will be amazed when you show them this. And now we have that head-to-head report of our portfolio and the benchmark way up here, their current portfolio way down here, our suggested portfolio with a weighted fee of 0.38% versus theirs, which is 1.38%, a drawdown of 17% versus their portfolio, which had a drawdown of 24.1%. And then if there are other parts of this report that you want to be able to go through with them, for example, hey, you're in a pretty aggressive allocation for your risk tolerance today, we would be making that a little bit more conservative. As you can see, we would have outperformed your current portfolio, and during market volatility, we're set to fare pretty well. All right, that's a very compelling case to be able to go through with a client. Hopefully it helps you win new business, bring assets in, make sure your clients are satisfied, and that's the name of the game. So I know that is a pretty comprehensive workflow. As I mentioned, this webinar will be available for recording after the call here today. And then if you do want to connect with one of our awesome support team members, they're more than happy to go through that with you. So now let's go back into YCharts for a moment, and let's fast forward for a second and say that we've won this client, right? Now we want to stay engaged with them. We want to provide them with valuable information so that way they can give us referrals. They feel good about the relationship. They know that, you know, we're on top of our stuff as their financial advisor. YCharts does an awesome job of putting out a lot of great information for you to be able to use basically right out of the box with clients. Now, the first place I'm going to go is actually an area of the system that I don't know that a lot of people are using quite so much anymore, just because the platform itself provides so much to advisors. But one of my favorite features is in our Excel area, and it's this market update here. So if you're subscribed to our professional plan, you can download this market update. This will go ahead and open up an Excel file that looks like this. Now, my favorite part about this is it allows us to pick the snapshot period in just a couple clicks to be able to publish to a newsletter or a market update that we're putting on our website or anything like that. So we just started Q3 of 2021, and maybe I want to be able to put out a market update for Q2, right? Now I could go to Fred and compile a bunch of different information and try and put that all together. That's going to be a huge lift and a huge time suck when I would rather be out there meeting face-to-face with clients. So let's help you. We're going to come in and go to return data as of last month end. That's going to take us through June, okay? Now, what do we want that return snapshot period to be? If I'm looking for 1 quarter, I would just select 3 month here. You'll see, if you blinked, you missed it, all of this information uploaded for a 3 month period. So now we have a market update for Q2 of 2021 showing us that large cap growth performed the best out of all the equity style boxes, up 13.23%. US real estate has done exceptionally well, as I'm sure you all know, with what the housing market looks like these days. This will break down a ton more information looking at sector performance. I'll be talking a little bit more about that here in a moment. We'll see trailing numbers there as well as economic indicators. You can go ahead and print this off, and that will go ahead and shoot it out to a PDF or to your printer. In addition to that, we also put out monthly market updates. So if you're not subscribed, I highly encourage you to subscribe to the YCharts blog. That'll be here under support topics. Once again, just go to resources where we were before with the FINRA letters, webinars. This one will be appearing here shortly, but the YCharts blog is right down here. So things like inflation, obviously a hot topic in the industry right now. We have great posts on ways to protect your portfolios against inflation. Go ahead and give that a read, or you can come in and look at this monthly market wrap up for June. This will have a lot of great charts. The best thing about this, everybody, is that these are hyperlinked into YCharts accounts. So if you see something in here that you like, go ahead and click on this modify in YCharts. So as an example, if I do want to put out a post on my LinkedIn or anything like that, I can simply come into this modify in YCharts. That'll take us directly into our YCharts account. It'll take us into our fundamental charting application, and now we have that chart. If you want to have your own custom colors in here, click on chart options and change that out. Maybe I want to take off the Canadian dollar to US exchange rate. You can modify it from here. So now we have inflation rates, the gold price in USD, and the euro to US exchange rate. Go ahead and share this, tweet it out, download it, and post it to social. Once again, great way to kind of more passively engage with clients when they're looking at their LinkedIn feed. They're connected with you as their advisor, and they see that you're a thought leader in the space. Now, lastly, if something comes up with a client or you have an idea that you want to be able to share from scratch and you're not using our market update, nor are you kind of taking some ideas from the blog, come up with your own, right? So I'm going to reset this chart for a moment, and let's go ahead and give an example here. I'm going to go ahead and look at energy versus technology, and I'm kind of going off the cuff here, everybody, so bear with me. I'm going to look at energy versus technology. And I'm going to go ahead and normalize that. Now we can see a one-year chart. What if I take that to a year-to-date chart, right? So as we know, technology has performed incredibly well for the past 10 plus years. But this year we saw a little bit more of a shift from growth to value. Now what we're looking at here is that energy has outperformed technology by effectively double this year. Maybe that's something that you want to go ahead and share. Please feel free to do so. Maybe you want to go ahead and compare an individual stock in this space versus another, right? So let's go ahead and uncheck those two. We may come back to them in a moment. But let's go ahead and look at ExxonMobil versus Amazon. Now I'm just going to look at the total return level, so dividends reinvested here. Now this is a pretty interesting chart, right? Because we have ExxonMobil up 50% with dividends reinvested this year versus Amazon at 13%. Maybe a client is asking you about that. Maybe you want to go ahead and shoot this off in an email or share this to your social. Please feel free to do so. Once again, we can take this on with custom colors. We can put that into presentation view, which will put your logo in that bottom left-hand corner. You can add a title on here. So maybe we want to say XOM versus Amazon. Bet you didn't think that. You add that in there, and now you're able to download or print this image straight to your computer. And it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. All right, everybody. Well, that is all I had for today. I'm going to go ahead and try and tackle some questions. Let me come back to my dashboard page here for a moment. Looks like we have a few in here. All right, looks like Mr. Mark Walker asks, can a prospect/client portfolio be separated from model portfolios and benchmarks? So currently, Mark, it cannot. They're all going to be available in the tools and model portfolios section. We are going to give you the ability to group them. So that is coming soon. So stay tuned for that. All right. I think the name is Tag asks, so holdings are static, i.e. held constant. That's a great question. So one thing that makes YCharts very unique, and in the example today, I only used our blank model portfolio. If you see here, we have dynamic model portfolios. Those allow you to account for any holding or allocation changes over time. We have a separate webinar on that, so please check that out. That will allow you to make changes to your strategies over time. How do we, okay, Stephen Lynch, sorry. How do we import portfolios from InvestNet? I believe that is. Is there a way to import current client's portfolio using Excel? Yes, I would recommend that you use the template. It's a simple modification. All you need to do is have the symbol and target weight there. Patrick Williams, great question. How could you walk through how to add advisory fee on these reports? Absolutely. So if you are adding a portfolio in here, just go ahead and click this advisory fee. The fee structure being monthly, quarterly, or annually, and then go ahead and populate that, and you're good to go. Good question. Can you add a target return instead of a benchmark from Ken? You cannot add a target return. Of course, you could add a target date fund as your benchmark if you want to. Hopefully that helps, or maybe I'm not understanding the question, but more than happy to go offline with that one, Ken. In the Excel market update report, this is from Kevin Stoddard, can we add our model portfolio performance? You absolutely can. You just need to have those model portfolios in Excel, and our awesome Excel team would be more than happy to incorporate that into a custom Excel market update report. Kevin, please connect with your customer success manager and our Excel team, and we'll get that set up for you. All right, I think that is about it for today. Mark Walker, oh, I'm sorry. Thanks, Allison. Can you go over the difference between static models and dynamic models? Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and pull one up here. So working with my proposed strategy that I used throughout the course of today's webinar. Effectively, the performance that you're seeing right here, everybody, is assuming that we had held these securities at these weights throughout history, rebalancing them quarterly. Now, if we had switched from a different mutual fund to this mutual fund at the beginning of the year, this particular portfolio would not capture that, right? So what we would do is we would use, let me pull up a different one, model portfolio with changes, and this is actually a pretty simple example, but hopefully it will make sense. So similarly to the portfolio that I was just showing you, we have symbols and weights. Now, if I go to view more holdings, I've been running this portfolio since 2007, and we've made a series of strategic, tactical changes over time, right? So this portfolio I started in 2007 with a 40% weight to SPY and a 30% weight to ag. Now, every year I go in and make a change for the upcoming year, but you can do this in the system anytime you want. But the next year, we switched that allocation from 40% SPY to 30% SPY and increased our fixed income over the course of time. Maybe like in 2011, we really went heavier into international as we saw good opportunities there and reduced our fixed income exposures. So this portfolio's performance that you'll see on this quote page is accounting for those changes that we've made over time. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. It can be like this example where we have the same holdings with changes to weights, or of course you could swap out holdings and tweak those too. Is there a plan to have model portfolios to save to a specific folder similar to the way Windows Explorer works? So what we're going to be doing with our model portfolios is not going to be like foldering in that sense. It's going to be a little bit more like what you would see in custom securities, where you'll be able to group these and apply filters to them. So that way you just have model portfolios in a list that meet whatever you're looking for. So in that sense, yes, but it won't be foldering like maybe what you're accustomed to, Michael. All right, everybody. Well, that's all I have for today. Brian Felshaw just popped in with one last one here. Are there any plans to start including a stock intersection report? So just like the market update that I was showing out of Excel, we do have a template in here that is a top holdings analysis. The only caveat there is that it will take the top 25 holdings of any mutual fund or ETF and intersect those, but it is a great application for that. And then we are planning on implementing that into the front end of the software. So great question there. And looks like we have one more. Are you integrated with Custodians to analyze current client holdings? As it stands today, it's a simple two-step process to the anonymous attendee out there. All you need to do is export the data from the custodian and then use that upload feature. So that should be pretty simple for you. If that isn't sufficient, we are actually in the process of setting up several integrations, and stay tuned for that because we're very excited with the integration partners, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. All right, everybody. Well, thank you again. This webinar will be published to the website. If you do have questions, please go ahead and contact your customer support representative if you are a client. If you are not a client and you're considering implementing YCharts into your tech stack, then please reach out to us, and I would be more than happy to set you up with one of my awesome sales reps to walk you through a trial and make sure that YCharts can deliver value for you and your team. Thank you.